What is going on, everyone? This is Connor, the co host with the most, welcoming you back to another NHL episode, the final NHL episode of the 2021 22 season for Clutch Crew Sports. And we have a new Stanley Cup champion. The Colorado Avalanche are the new Stanley Cup champions. They win their third Stanley Cup in franchise history and their first since 2001, ending the bid of the Tampa Bay Lightning to three-peat and become the first team to three-peat in the Big Four sports since the LA Lakers in the early 2000s. So this is going to be the last video I do on this topic for this season of the NHL. It's just going to be kind of like a quick recap of the finals since it's only one series. It's not going to be very long. But just recapping what happened, how my prediction worked out. Spoiler, it wasn't good if you saw the prediction video. I did get it wrong. um, but just recapping that a little bit, and then, like I said, it's going to be my last one for this season, but I will be doing a series of preview videos for the various divisions in the NHL once next season rolls around, but that won't be for October, so till October, so that won't be for a little bit. But moving on to this series, like I said, the Avalanche won the series 4-2. My initial prediction for this was that the Tampa Bay Lightning would take it in 7 games. Turns out I was wrong on not just the game count, but also the team. The Avalanche took it in 6 games. I thought the Lightning might have had a chance to force a 7th game, given the fact that they had game 6 on home ice, but unfortunately for them, it did not work out that way, and the Avalanche, in a lot of ways, just kind of steamrolled them through this series. I mean, other than game 3, the Avalanche were either, winning each game or in a position to win each game. Even the one that they lost in game 5, like, they were still in a good position to win that game until the very end. And I mean, I will say this for Tampa Bay, they did have a much tougher road to go through, and but I will apologize to the Colorado Avalanche for me thinking that they were weaker than Tampa Bay. Now, this in no way, I still think the Western Conference is really weak. Colorado winning the Cup does not prove to me at all that the Western Conference is any better than I originally thought they were. It's just the Avalanche are just the best team in hockey right now. Like, they completely steamrolled their way through the playoffs. Only 4 losses the entire time in the playoffs. They swept the Predators, won the Blues series in 6 games, swept the Oilers, and then won this series in 6 games. Never in trouble in any of their series. Unlike the Lightning, who ended up having, a little bit of trouble with Toronto and then a little bit of frightening stuff with New York at the beginning of the series. But, the Avalanche, like I said, they just steamrolled through the playoffs. They looked like the best team all year. They have the Norris Trophy winner on their team, Cale Makar, who also won the Conn Smythe Trophy for the playoff MVP. And, just led by all their stars, Nathan MacKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, all the guys. And I will say, I will commend the Avalanche for this too. I will commend them with sticking with Darcy Kuemper after that disastrous game 3 where they lost 6-2. I mean, it's one of those things that I saw it all over, the ESPN and all the hockey shows. Like, oh, should the Avalanche pull Darcy Kuemper? Should they move on to Francois? Should they go to the other goalie? And it's just like, no, like, why would you do that? It's Darcy Kuemper. I know they've kind of been like up and down with the goal, they kind of switched goalies at some point during the playoffs, but Kemper's the one who's mostly gotten you here. He's been the goalie all year. Like, just because he has one bad game doesn't mean you're all of a sudden going to pull him, given that you're still winning in the series 2-1. It's not like the Avalanche. It's not like he had 2 bad performances in a row and it was 2-2. Like, it was only 2-1. It was only 1 bad performance. I mean, granted, Andrei Vasilevsky's a much better goalie, but you didn't hear anyone on any of these shows saying after Vasilevsky let in 7 goals in Game 2, and, of course, losing Game 1 as well, you didn't hear anyone saying, oh, are the Lightning going to go ahead and move on to the backup? Like, Vasilevsky's not doing so good. Like, no, you didn't hear anyone say that. Like I said, it's not really a fair comparison because Vasilevsky's obviously, one of, if not the best goaltender in hockey. But, like, come on, they're not going to pull Darcy Kuemper and switch out goaltenders because he had 1 bad game in the finals. And it proved to be the right decision that they kept him, which I knew they should have done all along. So good on them for sticking to their guns with that. they just completely overpowered and outskated Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay especially had troubles on the power play. This vaunted Tampa Bay Lightning power play, 2 of 19 in the finals. Like, that's just not going to cut it in the finals. I can tell you that from experience with the Hurricanes. That's why we lost our series against the Rangers, was a horrible power play. So the Lightning couldn't get anything done on the power play. And, like I said, they just kind of got overpowered and outskated by the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche were the more physical team. They were the faster team. They were the more aggressive team. And the Lightning just frankly looked worn out. They looked like they had been through hell. And, which they kind of had. They did have it somewhat easy in that series against Florida. But, even that sweep against Florida, like, it took a lot of effort because Florida's a good team. It's not like when the Avalanche were playing the Predators in that sweep, the Predators didn't even really deserve to be in the playoffs. So, that wasn't exactly a tough sweep per se, as tough as a sweep could be. But yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they looked worn out. They looked beat up. And the Avalanche took advantage and steamrolled to victory. The thing for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I keep seeing all these things now that are coming out about, like, all these players that the Tampa Bay Lightning had injured, like, Braden Point was hurt, which, I mean, he was, but, like, and Kucherov was hurt, and Sergachev was hurt, and blah, 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 blah. Just, like, this list of injuries, and I'm like, okay, that's every team at the end of the year, though. Like, granted, I will give the Braden Point thing credit. He was hurt, and he missed games, but I can guarantee you the Avalanche, like, if you take all the injuries that players are dealing with right now at the end of the year, the Avalanche's list would be just as long. Like, they're just not complaining about it because they didn't lose. So, Tampa Bay is being a little bit whiny in that sense by, like, the fans on social media, and also the team, like, John Cooper was talking about, look at this list of injuries. I'm like, every team has those injuries at the end of the year. It's an 82-game season. Hockey is a very physical, tough sport. Like, if you're not injured at the end of the year, then you're probably not very good, or you're not getting a lot of minutes, because, it's just the way hockey is. So, Tampa Bay, just stop making excuses. Like, the Avalanche beat you. That's all I got to say about that. Looking at for the future for these teams, I mean, the Avalanche look to be in a really good spot to be in this position next season. I mean, like I said, the West in my mind is still pretty weak. Obviously, there's a whole off season in front of us. There's going to be roster shifts. There's going to be new free agents brought in. Teams are going to move players around. So, I'll definitely reevaluate that, when we get to our preview videos for next season and I make my official Stanley Cup prediction. But for right now, the Avalanche are definitely heavy favorites in my mind to repeat as Western Conference champs, and at the very least make it to the Stanley Cup. I know everywhere has them as Stanley Cup favorites. Normally the reigning champ is. But, I'm not sure I'm going to go ahead and call them Stanley Cup favorites yet. Just because, like I said, if some of these teams in the East make some good moves, and I think they could challenge the Avalanche, but I will definitely, for right now, call them Western Conference champ favorites by far. Because I think, other than maybe, like, Calgary, I don't see any team in the West being able to challenge them. I mean, I know a lot of people will, drool over the Oilers because everyone, wants to drool over Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But, I mean, they've been together for however many years now, and yet they've still not produced any success. So I'm not going to hold my breath about the Edmonton Oilers. Calgary, in my mind, is the only team in the West right now that can really challenge the Avalanche. That can change in the offseason. In the East, when it comes to Tampa, for their outlook, I still think they're in a good position too. I mean, they still have some good young pieces on the roster. Of course, everyone's got to get healthy. Braden Point's got to get healthy. For sure, he's a huge part of that. But, I mean, they still have a lot of good pieces. Stamkos doesn't look like he's regressing at all. Hedman is a Norris candidate. Vasilevsky's still young and a perennial Vezina candidate. So it's one of those things that, I think Tampa, like I said, I think they were beat up. And also, this was interesting for them because I said this in my prediction video, that this was the first real opponent they were going to have in the finals, because the past 2 years they had gotten to play Dallas the first time, who was kind of like a bit of a shock. Like, they were decent, but not great. They weren't any of the top 3 teams that everyone thought would come out of the West that year. And then they got to play Montreal last year, who, God knows how they even got to the Stanley Cup final last year. Like, that was, my Zach was telling me that, he heard a lot of things in Tampa, that the only reason why Tampa lost one game to Montreal in that final was so that Tampa could win it in Tampa in game 5. That's the only reason why they lost one game, because they didn't want to win the cup on the road. So, but yeah, this was the first real opponent for them in the final, and, they kind of got steamrolled. I'm sure they're going to come back strong. John Cooper's a great coach, and that organization is still really good, but it's not going to be as easy for them to get back here as it will be for the Avalanche in my mind. The East is still really good. The Hurricanes and the Rangers especially, I think, are going to come back and bounce back hard. I think the Florida Panthers, like, I'm not sure. They're definitely not going to be as good as they were this year, but I think they'll definitely still be pretty good. The Toronto Maple Leafs are looking like they can be fine if they could just learn how to get out of the first round. Then maybe they could challenge for someone. But the East is still really strong, is the point I'm trying to get across. So, like I said, I can't say whether I think Tampa Bay will be back here next year. I mean, I think they have a good chance, but they definitely have stiff competition ahead of them in teams like the Rangers and the Hurricanes and the Maple Leafs in the East. Whereas the Avalanche, like I said, in my mind, other than maybe Calgary, I don't think they really have any competition to get back here. So, congrats to the Colorado Avalanche for becoming the Stanley Cup champions. Also, thank you, Avalanche, for my sake as a Hurricanes fan. I know Zach's upset because he's a Lightning fan, but for my sake as a Hurricanes fan, I'm glad to see the Avalanche win and not the Lightning. So, sorry, Zach, but, I'm happy with this result. I know he's not. But again, congratulations to the Avalanche. And thank you guys so much for watching all of the hockey videos. This was a new thing that I was trying out this year. We wanted to get more content on our YouTube channel. And I think, you guys seem to enjoy these videos. We got a lot of, new viewers to this channel. I got some comments on some of these videos. Some of them telling me, like, good videos. Some of them telling me I was stupid. But, I'm here for it. If you disagree with me, then I want to hear about it. So, but like I said, I will be back with NHL previews once the off season is mostly through the way, and before we get to the start of the new season, I'll be releasing previews for the NHL. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching. We have a lot of new content coming out on this channel. Make sure you subscribe if you've not subscribed before. We have a lot of new content coming out. Zach and Eric have already released a couple of the NFL previews that we're going to be doing. Zach and Eric did a joint collab on the Jaguars. Eric just released his NFL preview on the Eagles. I'll be releasing this on Friday, which means that the next NFL preview coming out will be my preview of the Buffalo Bills, so make sure you tune in for that. And we're going to be doing that for all 32 teams, so, we'll get to your team eventually, but we hope you guys enjoy and get to watch your team and what we think of your team and how you think that we did previewing your team. But again, guys, like I said, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you can get notifications when we get all of our new videos coming out. Follow us on Twitter at Clutch Crew Sport and leave any comments you have down below. And until then, I will see you guys later.